Usually when we picture divine spiritual intervention, the mind goes straight to antiquity. We think of ancient texts or like mountaintop
Right,
revelations.
a booming voice thundering from the clouds, that sort of.
Exactly. But what if understanding the modern mechanics of a divine calling requires connecting three completely incongruous things?
And they are very incongruous.
Yeah, so we have a profound spiritual revelation, a friend slipping in a shower at exactly 7 p.m., and being permanently banned from multiple high-stakes Australian casinos.
It really sounds like the setup to a bizarre fiction novel. I mean, it really does. But it is the very real day-to-day reality presented in the materials for our deep dive today.
Yeah, you brought us an incredibly unique stack of sources to look through for this one.
I did, yeah. It's a fascinating collection.
So instead of like academic papers, we are looking at a personal curriculum vitae, a lengthy, very detailed audio transcript, and a very recent Facebook post from just a couple of weeks ago, April 3, 2026. And these all center around one man, Narciso Olalo, who operates under a title you certainly don't hear every day. He calls himself an astral healer.
Yeah, and before we really get into the mechanics of what that means, I think it's important to establish the parameters of our analysis for you, the listener.
Definitely.
Because our mission today is to impartially unpack these highly unique supernatural claims. We are not here to endorse Narciso's viewpoints, nor are we here to debunk them.
Right, we're just analyzing the text.
Strictly exploring the intricate narrative and, honestly, the fascinating worldview he has constructed across these documents.
And for you, as someone who loves looking at things from multiple perspectives, I mean, this is a masterclass in how an individual frames their life experiences,
Absolutely.
how they frame their intuition and even their run-ins with secular authority as part of this grand divine mission.
It really is.
But to really grasp the casino drama that unfolds later, we have to look at the strict spiritual framework Narciso operates within, because he is very specific about his role.
Very specific, yeah. He explicitly denies being a prophet or a messenger.
Right. He notes that when he communicated with God, those words were never used. His title is simply a calling.
Which implies a very different dynamic, like a prophet might stand on a street corner preaching to the masses. But a calling suggests he is activated only when specifically needed to deliver a message or provide healing.
Yeah, it's more targeted. And he draws a very sharp line between his work as an astral healer and the traditional healers in the Philippines, which are commonly known as albularios.
Exactly, because in his view, an albulario operates on guesswork.
Right. They might predict the future, and it might happen or it might not. It's a roll of the dice.
But Narciso claims an astral healer's abilities are fundamentally tied to strict, non-negotiable rules.
What kind of rules are we talking about here?
Well, first, he must never charge a single cent for his services.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And second, he maintains that he actually has no intrinsic power of his own. God is the one performing the healing. Narciso is merely the physical instrument in the room.
That's fascinating. So he's just the conduit.
Yes, and the mechanism of this healing is what makes his theology so robust. He outlines what we might call the 3 Ps that God requires from anyone seeking help.
Okay, lay those out for us.
So the individual must have complete belief that Narciso is the chosen instrument. They must change their false beliefs, and they must repent for their sins.
The way he describes this requirement of absolute belief feels remarkably similar to, like, a strict spiritual terms of service agreement.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
Like when you download a new app, you have to check the box and accept the terms before the program will even run.
Yes.
Narciso says that if a patient brings a transactional mindset to the encounter, saying to themselves, I will only believe in this if my specific physical ailment is cured, the spiritual contract is completely void.
He claims God explicitly told him that transactional belief is unacceptable.
Right. The belief has to be unconditional for the software of the healing to execute, basically.
And by establishing those parameters up front, the system provides an internal explanation for any outcome.
Oh, I see where you're going with this.
Yeah, if a healing does not occur, the failure doesn't lie with the astral healer, right? Or
No.
the divine power.
It lies with the patient.
Exactly. The failure lies with the recipient who failed to meet those strict terms of service.
Yeah.
They must have harbored a transactional mindset or, secretly held onto a false belief.
Yeah.
It protects the core of the theology from contradictory evidence.
It's a brilliant structural protection. And that extends into the next major concept outlined in his CV, which he calls the power of mind.
Right, which moves beyond physical healing into actual clairvoyance.
Yeah. Narciso claims the ability to see a person's entire life story simply by speaking with them.
Just from a conversation.
Just a conversation. He can see their sins, and he even claims the ability to see the sins of people who have been dead for years.
Which is an incredible claim.
But the most interesting philosophical wrinkle here is how he views the future.
Yes, his concept of fate is not fixed. In many clairvoyant traditions, if a seer views a tragedy, that tragedy is basically inevitable.
Like a Greek oracle or something.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But Narciso operates in a space heavily reliant on free will.
How so?
Well, if he receives a divine vision that a disaster is going to happen to someone, and he warns them, and they believe the warning, the disaster is neutralized,
It just doesn't happen.
it doesn't happen. The act of believing the messenger actively alters the timeline.
And the sources provide a very specific anecdote to illustrate this. Narciso was staying overnight at a friend's house,
Right.
and during the night, he receives a vision that this friend is going to suffer a broken bone. So the following morning, Narciso attempts to deliver the message.
But the friend is dismissive.
Totally dismissive. He brushes it off, says, "Let's not talk about that," and outright refuses to engage with the warning.
So the friend rejects the message, which, returning to our earlier point, violates that required belief structure.
Right, he breached the terms of service. So Narciso and his companions leave the house. They arrive back at their own home around 7 p.m.
And what happens?
At that exact hour, the friend goes into his bathroom, slips on the wet floor, and breaks a bone.
Unbelievable.
And the friend ends up calling Narciso the very next day, realizing his mistake and asking what the message was actually supposed to be.
And Narciso uses this event to underscore the literal stakes of his calling. He suggests that if the friend had simply listened and acknowledged the warning, the event would not have materialized at all.
Okay, but I'm stuck on the logic of this, though. I'm trying to wrap my head around how this works in practice because it seems like an entirely unfalsifiable claim.
How do you mean?
Well, if Narciso predicts a disaster, the person ignores him, and the disaster happens, his vision is proven entirely accurate, right?
Yes.
But if he predicts a disaster, the person believes him, and the disaster doesn't happen, his warning successfully worked according to his own rules, meaning he is still proven right.
That's the catch.
There is literally no scenario where the prediction can be proven wrong.
You've identified the exact mechanism of a self-sealing belief system.
A self-sealing belief system.
Yeah. Psychologically and structurally, the practitioner's validity can never be disproven in the eyes of his followers. The framework provides a built-in, logical answer for every possible outcome.
Wow.
If the bone breaks, the vision was real. If the bone doesn't break, the intervention was real. For you, the listener, analyzing these sources, recognizing this unfalsifiable structure is really vital to understanding how Narciso maintains absolute certainty in his calling.
Even when faced with extreme pushback from the outside world.
Especially then.
And he certainly faces pushback, because taking this unfalsifiable spiritual framework and dropping it straight into one of the most mathematically rigid, highly surveyed environments on Earth is where the source material gets truly wild.
It's the most fascinating part of the documents.
We have a lengthy audio transcript detailing a trip Narciso took to Australia just days prior to the recording. He decides to test this power of mind in an Australian casino.
And you have to remember, a modern casino is an environment built entirely on fixed odds and statistical inevitability.
Right. Standard roulette has 37 numbers. The house always has the edge over time.
But Narciso isn't playing the odds. He claims his power of mind allows him to know exactly where the little white ball is going to land.
Which is insane to think about. He is picking specific numbers in Brisbane and winning consistently, turning $18 into thousands.
Wow.
And in an environment designed to drain money, winning on a game of pure chance like roulette immediately attracts the eye in the sky. He notices a casino supervisor standing right behind him, monitoring his bets.
They're watching him closely.
Very closely. The supervisor even leans in and asks, "You winning?" So Narciso knows the surveillance is zeroing in on him, so he leaves for the night.
But the next day, the response escalates.
It does. He returns, sits at a machine, and instantly senses a signal. When he approaches the counter, he is surrounded by security.
Totally surrounded.
Yeah. They interrogate him, ask him to fill out forms, and accuse him of money laundering.
And Narciso is deeply offended by this.
Oh, he's furious. He tells them he isn't a politician and isn't playing with stolen government funds. He's playing with his own hard-earned cash.
But the casino security ignores his defense.
Right, they radio for backup and escort him off the property with a permanent ban, and the dragnet follows him.
He goes to Sydney next, right?
Yeah, he travels to Sydney, walks into a brand new casino hotel, and is intercepted by the manager before he can even play. They inform him he is on a red alert.
A red alert.
A red alert. And then in Melbourne, they only allow him to play under brutal restrictions, a strict 3-hour time limit, and a hard $5,000 cap.
Now, from a purely secular perspective, the casino's actions are a standard operating procedure.
Right, they spotted an anomaly.
Exactly. They suspected advantage play, and they utilized their right to refuse service to protect their bottom line. But Narciso's interpretation of this sequence of events is fascinating because he doesn't view this as a string of bad luck or a misunderstanding.
He views it as undeniable empirical proof of his divine gifts.
Exactly. Yeah. His logic dictates that the casino's security couldn't mathematically explain how he was beating the roulette wheel. So they researched him.
Oh, they looked him up.
Yeah, they looked up his background, found his YouTube channel, his social media presence, and saw his public claims of being an astral healer wielding the power of mind.
Right.
So according to Narciso, the casino authorities realized his supernatural powers were genuine, and they banned him out of profound fear. They realized their algorithms just couldn't defeat God's instrument.
It's such a striking perspective. The surveillance cameras, the pit bosses, the facial recognition. He sees all of this secular security infrastructure as an unwitting validator of his spiritual truth.
It's his proof.
It is. And to back up that he truly possesses this power, the sources dive into his gambling backstory long before he ever set foot in Australia. He claims these abilities manifested back in the late 1980s in Cagayan de Oro.
He details several instances from his early life where his intuition bypassed the laws of probability.
Yeah, like he was at a local fiesta playing a vertical carnival roulette wheel, and he knew exactly where the arrow would stop every single time.
Wow.
He won so much money, his pockets were visibly bulging, prompting the carnival employees to actually beg him to stop playing.
They were begging him.
Yeah. And then he would go to Sabong cockfighting and look at the roosters, instantly knowing which one would lose before a single feather was ruffled.
He could just tell.
And he was so vocal about his predictions that the other gamblers would throw bottle caps at him to shut him up.
He also mentions dominating local games like Kari Cruz, which is a street coin-flipping game, and Sakla.
Oh, what's Sakla?
For context, Sakla is a Spanish tarot card matching game heavily reliant on chance. It's very popular at wakes in the Philippines.
Oh, interesting. But the Kari Cruz story really stands out in the transcript. He was broke, expecting a child, and went to a game with just 100 pesos.
Just 100.
Just 100. And he claims he flipped 14 straight heads.
That's statistically wild.
No tricks, no sleight of hand. He turned 100 pesos into 16,000 pesos in a single sitting.
Wow.
And this brings up a crucial moral stance in his theology. Because he claims God told him that gambling itself is not a sin.
Which is a very significant departure from many mainstream religious doctrines.
Right. The caveat he provides is that gambling is only permissible if you are using your own legitimately earned money. It becomes a severe sin if the money on the table is stolen, corrupt, or acquired through deceit.
Which perfectly explains why he was so viscerally angered by the money laundering accusations in Sydney.
Exactly.
To him, it wasn't just a legal accusation. It was a direct insult to his spiritual integrity.
Right.
And it also contextualizes the rather sophisticated tactics he employed against the casinos in Australia. He wasn't just passively predicting numbers. He was actively engaging in psychological warfare with the surveillance team.
Oh, he was. He describes this deliberate cat-and-mouse game. To confuse the casino's algorithms and the people watching him on the cameras, he wouldn't stay at the roulette table after winning.
He'd move around.
Yeah, he would win a few thousand, then immediately walk over to a scatter machine, like a standard slot machine, and purposely lose money into it.
He lost on purpose.
Yes. He knew the scatter machines were statistically designed to drain players, so he used them as camouflage. He describes this tactic as using the casino's own trap to fry them in their own oil.
That's a great phrase.
Isn't it? He masked his divine advantage by mimicking the behavior of a reckless gambler.
But while he views these casino bans as badges of holy honor, the sources reveal a much darker consequence of this experience.
Yeah, they do.
The intense scrutiny of the Australian trip has clearly seeped into his subconscious. The physical surveillance is manifested into profound psychological weight.
Which brings us to the most recent document provided by the listener.
Right.
The Facebook post from April 3, 2026. It is a highly detailed account of a vivid dream or vision, and reading it, you can just feel the paranoia settling in.
It's very tense.
It starts in a dark storeroom at his workplace. He asks someone named MJ for a flashlight, but suddenly, a beam of light like a sunrise illuminates the room,
Okay.
and the light reveals two invisible people hiding in the darkness watching him. Reacting defensively, he shoots his own beam of light back at them, causing them to vanish.
It's a very direct metaphor for hidden watchers being exposed.
Definitely.
But the scene abruptly shifts to a much more high-stakes environment.
Right. He is suddenly in a hotel room, very similar to the casino hotels in Sydney or Melbourne. A group of men barges in. And over the commotion, Narciso hears the booming voice of God yell a single word: labor.
Labor.
Yeah. The men begin aggressively searching through Narciso's belongings. Interestingly, the main thing they uncover are 10-kilo bags of rice.
And that detail about the rice is vital for interpreting the dream's meaning.
Unpack that for us.
Well, in Filipino culture, rice isn't just food. It symbolizes foundational sustenance, hard work, and the purest form of a clean livelihood.
Oh, I see.
So when the men who clearly represent the casino security are tearing through his bags of rice, they are inspecting and attacking his very means of survival and his clean living.
It's a subconscious defense against the money laundering accusations.
Exactly. They're digging through his life and finding nothing but honest sustenance.
That makes the next part of the dream make perfect sense then.
What happens next?
Well, amidst the search, Narciso panics because his wallet is missing. He yells out, demanding to know who took it. A woman's voice shouts back that the wallet is right there.
Okay.
He looks, and the wallet is wide open, but his 1,500 Australian dollars are sitting inside, completely untouched by the men.
Again, reinforcing his innocence. His money is clean, accounted for, and uncorrupted by the men tearing his room apart.
But the emotional climax of this vision is so heavy. Narciso is walking over to retrieve his wallet, feeling an overwhelming sense of sadness. His best friend approaches him and delivers a chilling warning.
What does he say?
He says, "Red alert, your name is monitored in every corner of the world." And as he hears this, Narciso looks into the background and sees Jesus, who is looking profoundly sad. Narciso then hears the men whispering among themselves, questioning how he is handling his life while acting like he is under constant surveillance.
This document provides incredible insight into the burden of his specific calling.
It really does.
Think about it. Narciso's entire identity is predicated on having the power of mind, being the individual who sees all, who uncovers the secrets of the living and the dead.
Right.
But the casino experience inverted that dynamic entirely.
No, you're right.
In Australia, he
Oh.
became the one being watched. He was analyzed and tracked by an omniscient secular system.
So the literal red alert issued by the casino manager in Sydney has basically morphed in his subconscious into a cosmic, global panopticon.
The dream illustrates how secular paranoia has bled into his divine mission. He believes his powers are a gift from God, but the consequence of utilizing them in the modern world is that the world will relentlessly hunt him. The sadness he sees on Jesus' face seems to reflect the deep isolation and psychological toll that this intense global scrutiny brings.
Man, we have covered incredible ground today. We started by examining the strict, non-transactional mechanics required of an astral healer.
We did.
We navigated the complex, unfalsifiable logic of preventable fate, where belief itself alters the timeline. We followed Narciso into the hyper-secular environment of Australian casinos, where he utilized his perceived divine gifts to beat the mathematical odds, resulting in bans he interprets as spiritual victories.
Right.
And finally, we explored the deeply paranoid landscape of his subconscious, where casino security protocols evolve into a heavy burden of global surveillance.
It is a vast, intricate worldview. But analyzing how Narciso interprets the casino surveillance algorithms leaves us with a compelling, broader question for the listener to consider.
Yeah, what are you thinking?
Well, he views their cameras and data tracking as proof that his power of mind is a threat. But we currently live in an era where digital algorithms track our preferences. Facial recognition monitors our micro-expressions, and data brokers predict our habits with alarming accuracy.
That's very true.
These secular institutions have built massive infrastructures explicitly designed to predict human behavior and foresee outcomes. It forces us to ask, In our modern data-driven reality, aren't these massive digital infrastructures striving for the exact same power of mind that Narciso claims is an exclusive gift from God?
Oh, wow. The algorithm as the modern oracle. That is a profound way to look at the systems we interact with every day.
It really makes you think.
It does. Well, thank you to the listener for providing such rich, complex sources for us to explore. Keep seeking out those fascinating perspectives, and we will see you on the next deep dive. As you go about your week, whether you're passing a security camera or receiving a strangely accurate targeted ad, take a moment to ask yourself whose power of mind is really watching you.